Hi everyone, this is Jung from the ASLT. I'm going to be doing another quick logo fix. This project is another student project. I do have permission, so just to let you guys know, a student gave me permission to use this logo for the video. Also, I want to do a shout out to Magdi for hooking me up with a new lapel mic, so hopefully my videos don't sound like garbage. And so also I can record and you can see it clearly on my screen using QuickTime. Anyways, the project was to come up with a concept for a non-existing product and also come up with the name and also develop the logo for it, the branding. So here's the logo. It's called PuroTrek. So I think the product is a trekking or hiking rod or pole with a water filtration system built into it. So here's the logo. And as you can see, there's some little issues with this. A few things that I'm going to tackle really quickly is, again, remember when you are working with logos, you always want to focus on the resizableness of it, whether it can be legible, readable when it gets shrunken down. And a few issues, tiny issues that I noticed are the smaller dots getting lost. That's one thing. Another thing is, if you can see here, there's some tracking issues. So as far as kerning or tracking, the letter spacing is very open on the word for puro, and then the track is tightened. I kind of understand why they're doing that, but I think there's other ways to solve that, and we're going to do that today. And then another issue, one other tiny issue, is more of an aesthetic thing, preference, but I feel like there's a lot of empty space up here in the droplet of water. So we're going to fix that, and I want to double check the icon, and because I can see some of the curves, and I'm kind of looking at it and trying to make sure that the curves are a little bit more precise and symmetrical. So let's bring up some rulers here. The first thing I'm going to do is actually check the circle, the curves of the water drop. So I'm just going to draw some guidelines. Just to kind of see, hopefully that's the center point. Right away, you notice that as I'm creating this, that I drew this guideline down the middle of this droplet, the tip of it, which I would consider the middle, and you can already notice that the center is off in the circle. So I want to double check everything. So let me just select this logo, and yeah, there's some issues with this. Let me zoom in here. There's a few issues with this. Let me just double check something. So part of the issue may be that we have some issues going on because, number one, that I just converted, this was a PDF file that was converted into AI. I opened it in AI, so we did have some issues like that outline, and a lot of these shapes are going to be grouped. So I'm going to ungroup these guys, try to as much as I can, see if I can ungroup it. Oops, get rid of that. I might even have to duplicate this and get rid of this outline here and take this guy and see if there's a way to ungroup this. And let me see if I can do a object expand, and if that'll allow me to ungroup this. No, it's not letting me. So we'll just have to manually fix this. So the first thing obviously we notice is that this entire object of circles, or this grouping of circles, are not centered within the horizontal vertical lines for the center point. So I'm going to just center this and let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to select the inner circle, and that looks like, yeah, now that's centered. We do have some issues with the circles around it. You can see that it's not very symmetrical. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of recreate this by hand. So I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to create this circle, mimic the circle that's underneath it, and I'm going to actually change the color because I want to see the difference between the two shapes. So I'm going to just pick a color, green, and there's my circle. I just want to get in there and center that. Okay. And I think from here, I'm just going to manually just create a pattern of an arc, semi-arc, or semicircle. And obviously this has to be mirrored. So I'm trying to mirror it as much as possible and still contain or keep the consistency. So let me do this really quick because I'm going to have to reflect all of this. So I'm kind of eyeballing this thing. If I wanted to do this really accurately, this is what I should do. And maybe I will. So I'm going to draw another circle just to use as my kind of my guidance. This is my outline. And so there's my guideline for where the circle is going to be. Actually, let me make this a little bit larger because I want to center it to this circle as my reference point. And so everywhere that I put my circles, they're always going to be the center dot's going to be always aligned to the actual line, the path of this outer circle here. So you can notice that they're kind of off. So I'll do that. And then from here, I'm just going to take these guys now, and I'm going to group them, and I'm going to reflect them. So I'm going to use the reflect tool. Come in here, hold down Option, click on it. Oops. And then when your reflect dialog pops up, I want to reflect it and I want to copy it. So boom. So then I just reflected that. So let me do that again really quick. So what I did was I spaced out my circles to where I think they're pretty equidistant from each other. And then I used the reflect tool, and I hold down Option and I click in the center line where I want to reflect this to the other side, which is this vertical line here. And I'm going to do it right into the center point. And I'm going to hold down Option and click in the center with my reflect tool. And then I get the reflect tool option popping up. With the reflection tool, I want to vertically reflect. You can see that's because I want this side to have the same circles. And then I'm going to, instead of doing, I can do preview if you want, but I want to do copy, right? So I want to copy the set. I don't want to just do OK. If I do OK, it'll just reflect it to the other side. If I do copy, it's going to make a copy of it and reflect it to the other side. So I'm going to hit copy, and there you go. Now I can get rid of this guy, and then I can actually, I'm going to start, basically I'm going to recreate this whole thing. So let me recreate this. Let me start from the center line, actually. So when you want to create a circle from the center point, you hold down Shift and Option together as you draw the circle out using the elliptical tool. And I just created my perfect circle, and I'm going to fill it in. And so now I've created the inner circle, the outer circle, first ring actually, and then I'm going to now create the outer ring. So before I get any further, one thing that we did notice was that these little circles are way too small when they get reduced, and these weren't that much bigger. So I'm going to kind of go back and redo this. I'm going to take this guy. Let's do this. Let's see if I could take each of these guys, ungroup it, and I'm going to lock these guys up. Command 2 to lock. I'm going to grab all the circles, and let's see if I could scale this uniform 120%. Okay, so you saw the problem with that. The problem with that was that it actually not only grew in size, but also expanded out in the circle, in the spacing too. So I'm going to undo that. So I'm going to go back a couple of steps. And I just want to bring my green ring back. So that's my guideline, right? So I'm going to take these circles, and on each of those, I'm just going to basically do the 120%, and it's just going to basically scale each one 120%. 120%. Okay, so there it is. All right, so now I'm going to take the same circle and I'm going to make this larger and go out to the outer ring. So I just basically use the same option, shift, and scaled it out. So now it lines up with the outer circles. So now with this one, it's a little bit more symmetrical, and you can see that they actually centered it and they have it on every corner. So this should be a little bit easier process, but still I'm going to, oops, I'm going to make some circles here. Okay, so maybe take one of these guys and make it a little bit smaller. But I don't want it as small as those because those were not visible. So I'm going to make it tiny bit, a little bit larger. I'm just going to basically center it over the space where the existing circles are. And I'm going to take these guys. Oops. And I could do a couple of things actually. Yeah, let's reflect it. Vertically, and then I can reflect this horizontally, right? So I fill that up, and I could fill this up, reflect this vertically again, right? And then actually these guys are pretty simple. I can just center this, duplicate this, and just center these guys. Okay, so now that I've got my circles all done, I'm going to get rid of the original circle. So now you can see the difference between this. It looks it looks cleaned up basically, right? And then I can take this guy, and what I'm going to do is now I'm going to select all this. I can't do that, huh? How about this? I'm going to do select same fill color, which is the white. Oh no, it won't do that either. I think because it was expanded from a PDF. So let's let me see if this will work. Nope. Nope. So I'm gonna manually take all of these guys. Okay, so anyways, these are all done. That wasn't that bad. Yes, it was. Okay, so here's my circle. And one of the issues that I'm noticing right away again is I'm trying to center this thing, and you can see that actually the tip is not centered. If the tip was curved, maybe then I would understand, but the tip looks like it was supposed to be centered and it's not. So let's fix this guy. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to come in here, look at all my anchor points. So you guys who know me from class or from other places, you know that this should not be here, right? This should not be here. This is a big fail. Whenever there is a curve at the bottom, you want to create a tangent at the most base part of the arc, which is down here. So this should actually need to move over here. Okay, so before I do that, let's just draw some guidelines so we know where the edges are, or the base is. So this is the baseline, and this is the most far right, and this is the most far left, right? So with this in mind, I'm just gonna have to move this over to the center, and I'm going to have to basically create an arc that way. And then here, same issue, right? So we don't need this guy. This is an extra point, anchor point that we don't need. So I'm going to get rid of that. So we're going to delete this. And then we're also going to, there's another one right here. And you can actually see that it creates a weird bump, right? So I'm going to delete that. That's because he had too many anchor points. And then let's see if there's any other that we may not need. So now that looks like they're still there. So I got rid of that. So now we've got the anchor points on the most far right. Ooh, it almost looks like, let me double check something. So this guy, okay, belongs right here. I'm going to zoom out. And you can see that. And I'm going to just pull the handle. pull the handle, and I'm going to try to make these handles be pulled equidistant as far as how far it comes out from the center point. Okay, I'm just eyeballing it too. I'm not going to try to mathematically do it. If I was going to try to get accuracy, I would mathematically do it. And as I pull the handle on the bottom, you can notice that there is an anchor point right here that shouldn't be here. So let me get rid of that as well. So I got rid of that, and now I'm going to pull this handle, right? And make sure that these are kind of equidistant. And you can see that it looks a little too, like it's too far out. So let me pull some of these handles back. I want to create a really smooth arc, right? So then if this is looking nice, and I can draw guidelines to match everything up, so this needs to be pulled down just a little bit more, right? And I think we have that. Now we want to fix this top portion. So the first thing that we need to do is center this point right here. Notice something just happened. There was 2 points here. So I think what they did was when they created this shape, they created one half, mirrored it, and then forgot to join this point. So what I'm gonna do is, first of all, I wanna connect these points so I can delete one of them, and then I'm going to delete this one. Okay, so you can see that when I did that, it got rid of that handle. So now it starts to create a really funky looking curve here. It's a reverse curve than this converse curve here. Concave, I guess you want to call it. So in this kind of case, we do need a handle here because we want it to curve in. If we wanted to curve out like this, then we wouldn't need a handle. See, there's no handle, it curves out. We have a handle, we can control the curve, so we do need a handle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the anchor point tool, just basically create new anchor points or new handles, and I'm going to pull the second handle down and match the first handle. Alright, so part of this is eyeballing, but one of the issues that we had before, and I want to make sure also that these guys are at the same height, and doesn't look like they were. So we're fixing that as well. One of the things that before, and I made a big boo-boo. I teach you guys this and I forgot to do it. So I'm going to save this out because we always want to compare, right? So I forgot to duplicate the logo. So I'm going to save this. Let me see. Okay, this is video 4, and I'm going to call this vid4 logo. Okay, so I'm going to hit save. So then now I can open up the previous logo, recent file, which is the electronic logo. Okay, boom, and then here it is. Here's the original logo. So let me bring this guy in now, copy that, paste it, and there's my two logos side by side. All right, so you can see that I cleaned up the circles. I've also cleaned up the arc a little bit. And what else do I want to do? Again, the spacing here is a little bit hollow. There's too much negative space that's not doing anything. So I think part of it is going to be to bring this guy down more, right? I don't think we need it to be that tall. And it starts to get away from that 1-to-1 ratio and starts hitting 1.5, almost 1-to-2 ratio. So now we kind of tightened that up. I almost feel like these handles here could probably come down even more. Oops. Let me zoom in here. So this handle could almost come down almost to that line where the other handles are lining up on right over here. Okay. So we cleaned up the curve. Let me find the guidelines. Let me take all these guys and make it white. Oh, we don't have swatches, so let me just fill it with white. Okay. And there you have it. I think we're gonna have to find a nice medium between the two. Now it just feels a little too bubbly here. So I'm going to bring this back up just a little bit, and so that it has a tail, like a droplet tail. It was a little too much, I tightened it up. One thing that I am noticing though is that these circles are looking a little big. So let me zoom out a little bit. I mean, you can still see there, but what I liked about his circles, his original circles, was that there was an obvious, like this kind of like radiating out type of feel and effect. So let me bring my guidelines back in. And I think I'm going to have to reduce these guys, each of these guys, like a certain percentage. Let me see. I'm going to try for 90%. Whoa, there's two circles. Oh, because certain circles were duplicated on top of each other. That's why it's doing that. So that's okay. I can just get rid of the other one. Oops, I can get rid of the bigger one actually. So there it is. I think that is that's a nice medium between the two. Let me try one other size. Okay, so that actually edit redo. Okay, so there it is. So I'm going to take this guy, let me get rid of that one, and then I'm going to reduce this down to about, what was it, 85? I did 90 last time. Is that enough? Let me reduce this down. Maybe more even. Okay, let's take this guy and reduce it down to like 80%. Okay, I mean, I feel comfortable with 80%. It's just, you can see that it's not as small as the original, but it's still small. You can see the movement. So let's reduce all these guys to 80%. Magic of video editing, we will probably have it done quicker. A few other things that I want to make sure, it's starting to feel like a circle and less like a droplet, so I just want to double check and make sure that, you know, possibly to pull back this just a little bit more, right? So it feels like a droplet, and then same thing here, maybe just a little bit, not to feel like a big circle basically. All right, so and there's that. So okay, so I cleaned this up. I'm gonna get rid of the guidelines, and I don't know if your eyes are keen to this change, but I feel like the circle is much more rounder, and it looks more I guess the flow of the curve itself feels more consistent, and I think as far as shrinking it down, we're going to be able to see the circles a lot more as well. If I wanted to, I could actually maybe convert these guys just a little bit larger too. Let's just go 110 on these and make these guys a little bit larger. Okay, thanks again to the magic of editing. We got that done. So I'm going to take this guy now and I'm going to put him aside for now. And let's tackle the actual PureTech. So again, remember earlier there were some tracking issues as far as the way they were trying to divide the two different words from each other. They were trying to make sure that we see Purell Trek, and they did it through letter spacing here, opening this up and then tightening up the Trek word. And I don't think this was the best solution. Couple of options. So I'm gonna take this color bar here, remove some of this. I want to move the logo up. Oops. I want to move the logo up, and I want to take this guy and I want to duplicate it, and they didn't outline this either. So let me see what font they used. Avenir. They used Avenir for this. It's an okay font. It's not the best font, but it still works. I think it feels, you know, minimal and still works. Let's try a couple options. So let's take this guy and let's kern this all consistently the same, right? So they have the same kerning. So I just want to double check or tracking. Let me see. This is minus 19. Let's just set this to, first of all, 0. Okay, so we start fresh. So there's 0. There's with no tracking whatsoever. And then maybe let's do one that's tight. So this is like minus 24. So let's take all of this. Let's make this minus 24. Okay. So all of that tracking is minus 24. So you can see it's a little bit tighter. So I'm going to get rid of this third one. So I feel like the tighter tracking feels more comfortable to me. It could be preference, but I just feel like it's tighter. I don't see gaps in here like here. So let's put this aside and let's work on this. Even with the tracking set to consistently all being minus 24, there's still some issues going on. There's still some, the way the letter O and letter T are next to each other, that's part of a problem, the way they're designed. So there's a gap here. So I think these two need to come in a little bit. Let me see. So I'm gonna go minus 50. Let's see what that looks like. Oops, I put 50, minus 50. That tightened it up a little bit. And still, you can see how tight it feels here, and this is still very open. So let's tighten that even more. Let's go like minus 80. Okay, so one thing that I'm noticing is that I'm tracking that it's tightening up this as well. So let's see if I just do this side, minus 80. Okay, that did it. So minus 80, that's not bad. Let's go here and let's do like minus 50. Okay, so now that looks a little too tight, right? So let's go back. Let's go back to minus 24. Let's see what it looks like when it's originally set to. That's not bad. So this is done. This isn't that bad, but this is a little open here. And then the P is a little bit open. So all of these guys here, let's just tighten these guys all up. Let's go to minus maybe 40. And I think that feels comfortable. I'm okay with it. Yeah, I'm okay with it. So now, how do we distinguish the Puro and the track from each other? The tracking is feeling better. I might a couple of different ways. I'm not crazy about having the icon and the word mark be the same color. So that's one of the things that bothers me. So first thing I want to do is I want to change some colors around here. So I'm going to go in here. Let me see. Maybe go with like a darker gray. That's an option, so it distinguishes itself. But the Puro track is still not distinguishing it one part from the other. So what if I go in here and I take this and Avenir Roman, how about Avenir Black? So this is an option. I can actually go in and distinguish and separate the two words from each other using the same font, using different weights, right? That's an option. Another option would be to take this and actually this actually looks pretty cool. Puro trek is a heavier word. It kind of gives you a sense of like you're being out in the woods. How about if we go in here and we actually colorize difference here? Oops, that picked up the, let me pick up the actual color. So we've got Puro trek and we got Puro trek. I'm kind of leaning towards having a dual color logo like this. I think that Puro and then trekking is emphasized. So I'm kind of liking this at this point. So from here, I guess we can just kind of compare to, let's go back to the original here. I'm going to move that out. And I'm just going to bring this guy and copy this. Bring this into here and just shrink all this down and just see a comparison. So before and after, or before and after. So it went from a very, I guess, very simple, but minimal. I mean, I think adding a color difference is huge. Adding that extra word and thickening up the track brings emphasis. the more I see this icon next to the word mark, I feel like Puro shouldn't be orange anymore. So I'm gonna see what other colors I can do here. So I'm gonna see if I can go like a dark gray here, and I want to take this Trek part and see if I can go with the lighter gray. So we got Puro Trek, and we've got the the Trek Boulder lighter, distinguishing the colors from each other. I think that's a nice touch as well. We cleaned up the circle, we cleaned up the smaller circle, so now when it shrinks down, it's more visible and doesn't get totally lost. We've cleaned up the curves, we cleaned up the trekking, kept it all consistent, but we distinguished the word Puro Trek from one another. So here's the old, before, again, and here is the after. So this is a logo cleanup or fix, video number 4 it's going to be. I have another video in mind for video number 3. So this is it. So if you guys have any questions, or if you want to submit a logo that I can clean for you and just give you reasons why and kind of walk through the technical aspects of it, please do so. And you can email me at jung@skueat, skueat.com. And this is Jung at ASLT, and this has been another video, and I'm going to sign off now. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.